This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome to another episode of the Less is More Sports Podcast. Matt and I got a slate of topics to talk about today. So without further ado, let's just dive right into it. Matt, would you like to go first with your first topic, or would you want me to go first?
Let's just get it out of the way. Let's let you go first because I know what your first topic is, and we all know what your first topic is. And thank God we didn't do an emergency podcast, but we all know what it is. So let's start there.
Unfortunately, we weren't able to do an emergency podcast on this topic, and that's actually code word for Matt wouldn't let us do an emergency podcast for this topic. But for those who haven't heard, unless you completely live under a rock, Arch Manning has decided to commit to Texas. And I just have some few things to say about that. Does the Sark era have your attention yet? I've been sold since his first offseason when he brought in a loaded coaching staff. Now getting Quinn Ewers to return to Texas and landing Manning has officially put Texas back on the map. And as if landing a top-tier QB wasn't enough, recruits started piling in post-Arch commitment, comparing the 2023 class to a top 2 class, depending on which site you look at. And what's even bigger about all this is that the type of recruits they're getting are linemen, linemen on both sides of the ball, which heading to the SEC in a couple of years is extremely important. It's obviously great to get talented players, but also shows that Arch has great leadership skills and that others want to play with him. With the off seasons Texas has had, I have no reason to believe that Texas I have no reason to not believe that Texas will not be back. Side note, Louisville fans love to tease me about landing Reuben Owens, but I think we turned out just fine.
You want to know the one thing I do know, Les, for 1,000% sure?
What is it?
4 years from now, on a steamy May-ish night, probably in some city like Las Vegas or San Diego or something like that, there will be a draft room where Chris Ballard will be standing, and the Colts will have like the 22nd pick in the NFL draft, and he'll be ready to trade back with the Jets to go to like pick 34 and pick up like picks 42 and 48 to go with it in the second round, because that's what he does. And Jim Irsay will walk in with a machine gun and tell him that if he doesn't trade that, Quentin Nelson, and half of his guitar collection to move up into the top 3 to pick Arch Manning, he's gonna go crazy. That's all I know, Les. That's all I know is that Jim Irsay is already plotting how he's going to get Arch Manning in 4 years. It doesn't matter if he never even completes a pass in college, because Jim Irsay is going to do everything in his power to draft this kid. That's all I know. And Chris Ballard is going to be held hostage until he does.
And to add to that point, we're going to run it back completely, because they're going to do everything he can to draft Arch Manning and Marvin Harrison Jr. within the same draft.
And
we're running this
Edgerrin
back.
James III.
Does he even have an Edgerrin James III?
I don't know. All I know is that T.Y. Hilton will somehow still be active and on the roster.
He's somehow, which will be very surprising.
On that team, yes.
But at least he'll still be good for get once a year games against the Texans at
that's his career, man. That's his career, because by that time the Texans will have acquired the entire first round of the NFL draft, trading quarterbacks, and it'll just be the Texans and Colts picking. And that's where we're headed, and that's okay.
That's fine.
And that's okay.
But as for the move itself, and the reason I chose to talk about this, obviously being the Texas fan on this podcast, not to be too much of a homer, but it's absolutely a huge news. I just absolutely love the direction we're going, and having a top 2, top 3 recruiting class, depending on the site we have coming in. There's a lot of momentum headed into the 40 acres, and I have every reason to believe that Texas is going to be back. And those saying that Texas isn't ready for the SEC. Well, the SEC is still a couple years away. And with the types of recruits that we have coming in, there's every reason to believe that they'll fit in just fine. I mean, this recruiting class coming in, they have 7 offensive linemen coming in. The recruiting class after that, which is still getting filled, They have 4 offensive linemen and 3 defensive linemen, 7 total. So I mean, they're recruiting on the areas you need to succeed in the SEC. And now the hype of landing, not only Quinn Ewers to come back, but get Arch Manning to come in as well. That's, like I mentioned, that's going to bring the skilled guys in too. So this is just good all the way around.
Arch Manning is going to make a lot of money on an NIL, and that's the number one reason why he picked to do this. I think is that you're going to Texas, you've got all the money in the world now. You've got billionaires and oil tycoons and Matthew McConaughey who are going to be signing your checks before you even get that sweet NFL contract if you get that far. That's probably a number one reason why you should go
Absolutely.
there. No offense to
1000%.
Peyton or Eli's alma maters or even Archie's, but Ole Miss and Tennessee do not have the pockets that they have in Austin, Texas.
Mm-mm. I think it's time to move on to your first topic, my friend.
Yeah, here we go. I don't know if anyone heard about this around the time the NBA draft started. It's kind of flying under the radar. But we have a big three that officially is no more. RIP to the Brooklyn, not New Jersey Nets, and their big three of James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant. Finally, after 3 years of abject misery for the fan base there, it appears to be all over as Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving most likely are headed to new homes, and James Harden already a member of the Philadelphia 76ers. This is truly the big three that wasn't. And the question we're going to pose to each other right now is this the end of the big three era? Will NBA GMs change how they view roster construction going forward? Unless I'll let you start and then I'll take it back when you finish your take.
I'm going to absolutely say no and the reason I say this is because there's other topics that I'm going to talk about later on in the podcast, but I see big threes potentially forming as well this offseason. So I don't think the big three will ever be necessarily gone, because if you look historically, a lot of the great historic teams in NBA history have been around a big three. We've talked about, they've either had the Batman and Robin dynamic or the big three dynamic, and I don't think that will ever go away. I think what will change is that they're going to do more research in how they're constructed, do a better job of trying to find guys that will actually fit each other, and guys. And I think an often aspect that gets overlooked is, how do these guys' personalities fit? I think that is the number one thing that GMs and coaches everywhere, when they construct a team, that's the one thing that they miss, is what's going on up here. That sports are 90% a mental game. That is why that's why they GMs passed on Tom Brady, because he may have not met the physical requirements, but he had everything up here that you look for. So I think I know I just rambled and made a long story out of that, but I don't think the big three era is ever done in basketball, but I think this will be another staple for teams to look at more carefully who they choose to build their big three around.
I think that's very poignant because, Les, what I was going to point out is we really haven't had a big three that's lived up to the hype since LeBron left Miami. They've all been varying levels of disappointment. And you look at the last two now champions, or a few more of the past champions, the Warriors were a homegrown team outside of adding Kevin Durant those 2 years. The Bucks have one guy. The Raptors, when they won the title, were a good young team, but had basically one guy. They had Kawhi Leonard. Pascal Siakam is good. Chris Middleton is good, but they're not like having Dwayne Wade as a second option. The Lakers, when they won the championship, were really just LeBron and AD. And they actually got worse when they added in the third guy in Russell Westbrook because, like you said, I feel like the thing a lot of people aren't taking into account here is people just assume you can add three superstars and put a somewhat decent bench around them and win a championship. And in a way, Miami and Brooklyn both proved two sides of an argument here. Miami, especially Bosh, Wade, and LeBron, were good friends. They were the Banana Boat crew. Everyone remembers that. And in a way, Kyrie, Durant, and Harden had like a similar friendship forged through like the Olympic Games and stuff. But they also had something crazy happen, which is basically the past 3 years of being alive happened to them. And they only ended up playing like 30 some odd games together on the court. But I feel like this will be a cautionary tale to a lot of general managers. Maybe two is enough. Two's company, but three's a crowd. You don't want to have too many cooks in that kitchen. And now you look at where the Nets are, they're all the way back at the starting point. God only knows what kind of returns they're going to get for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, who it looks like Kyrie Irving is going to be a Laker, and the Lakers are a decimated team. Let's be honest. They have no resources other than Russell Westbrook, who has worn out his welcome. And who knows? Kevin Durant's going to get you a nice haul if a team is willing to pay. And we'll talk about this probably a little bit later. But to me, the Big Three era, I think the Big Three era, unless you have a homegrown team like Golden State, may be coming to an unofficial end. I think more teams now are going to adapt to having maybe two superstars and a really good roster around them rather than just trying to bet all their money on getting three MVP candidates and risking it all falling apart because of ego or because of injury, which is what we've seen over and over again.
Before we move on, I do have a couple questions. Do you consider that 2016 Cavaliers team a Big Three with LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love?
No.
You don't? Okay.
I like Kevin Love, but I don't think Kevin Love is a transcendent all-star type.
Oh, that's what you mean by Big Three is transcendent all-stars.
Yes. Three guys who, like, when we look back on it, it's gonna be like those are three Hall of Fame guys playing in perfect unity.
Okay, that makes more sense.
I will admit, like the Warriors teams with Kevin Durant, yeah, I would almost call that a Big Three, but I'm not sure because it seemed like Klay Thompson was hurt for part of that, and then there's Draymond. They almost had a Big Four, but that was just perfect roster construction to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about importing superstars from other areas at like multiple positions and just seeing what works.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, I guess what my point is, you know me and what I've said a lot of times on the podcast, I don't care how you get the players there as long as you get them there, whether it be via draft, whether it be via free agency, via trade, whatever. I just look, when I think of like Big Three, I think of just your rosters around three main guys. All three of those guys could be perennial all-stars. And that's what I guess, and I think that it was good that we clarified there because I felt like we were arguing two different things. And
yeah, I think that was good.
I think that was good to clarify there. So, but no, I respect your point. I respect exactly where you're coming from. So, but I still stand. But that being said, even that we have clarified, I still am going to stand by my take because I always feel like just the history of basketball is going to be there's going to be those teams like that are constructed exactly how you think that should be constructed with the two all-stars and the good roster around them. And then there's going to be those teams that are willing to go all in. I think that's just the nature of the game, and people are just going to try. That's just different ways that they view building teams like different ways of running a business. And I think those are two of the the more successful ways that a business business has been run.
There are lots of schools of thoughts on like how to build the best roster, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, that's just part of it. But, anyways, next topic. And it's a shock to absolutely everyone that one of the formerly top recruits in the nation, Emoni Bates, has committed to his hometown team, the Eastern Michigan. Who would have saw that coming? And I hate to, actually, no, I love to point out that it's an even bigger disappointment to Louisville fans who thought DJ Wagner and Bates were going to team up in the 502 after Bates's Instagram story. In all seriousness, as surprising as it is to see a former top-tier prospect commit to a school with little basketball history, it actually makes sense. Coming off a disappointing first collegiate season. Hold on. What's up?
I know. You know George Iceman Gervin went to Eastern Michigan, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yes. That's why I said
Okay.
little basketball history.
Okay. I mean, he is a Hall of Fame
I'm
player.
not disrespecting the Iceman. No. When I say
Nickname
little, how many national titles have they won?
6.
Oh, my point exactly. But in all seriousness, coming off a disappointing first collegiate season with Memphis, in which the Tigers clearly looked better without him, it's time for Bates to regroup, be close to home, and go to a team where he can be the guy without question. Some will say it makes him look selfish, but I think it's a humbling experience that will tell us what he's really made of.
I would just like to point out, Les, that I know I wasn't alive for it because it happened in March of that year. But do you know what happened in the first round of the 1996 NCAA tournament?
I was 3, so no.
Well, you know who beat Duke? Eastern Michigan. We do not stay. We respect the Eastern Michigan Eagles here. And now to get back to the point at hand, it's not really that shocking to me, Les. I mean, we've got Patrick Baldwin last year committed to Milwaukee. Now, and it really didn't affect his draft stock that much. In fact, he's probably in a better situation with a depleted Golden State bench on a team that will develop him now than he would be if he was going to Sacramento. Let's be honest. Nowadays, it's all about fit for these guys. If he feels more comfortable playing in the MAC, he should go play in the MAC. And the path to a title or path to a conference title, I mean, maybe a little bit easier. Maybe being in Memphis, which is a big city, is a little bit intimidating, especially when you have such high expectations. I'm not going to fault the guy for going there. I mean, I feel like modern college athletics are all about how comfortable you feel as a player and how much money now you can make by branding yourself at those schools. And if he becomes what everyone thought he was going to be in Memphis, which is what I think you called him, a mini Kevin Durant when we did our college draft, and leads them to deep to dominate the Mid-American Conference or on a tournament run of some kind, he's going to be able to market that forever to the point and maybe worth more than a first rookie deal if he goes in the 20s or 30s. So I mean, I've got no problem with it. And the people making fun of him have obviously never been in a position of this magnitude where you're choosing your destination to either make money or just try to escape something that was a bad situation. I mean, we like you said, Memphis played better without him. It might have been a bad situation, a bad fit. Maybe he thought he was going to get along with Penny Hardaway, didn't get along with Penny Hardaway. So I mean, it's all about the fit for this kid, and wherever he feels comfortable is where he should go. And if you've got a problem with that, or you want to be butthurt about it, go complain on Twitter where he's not going to see it.
Get a life. How about that?
Even better.
No, I think you and I are actually on the same page about that. So
we're definitely on the same page when it comes to players about this.
Yeah,
and
dude.
I think we're gonna.
That is one area that we actually 1000% agree with, is that, and actually wish more people did agree with, is that we are all for players doing what is best for them, regardless of if fans like it or not. Because at the end of the day, those players don't owe us a damn thing at all. No, they play for them, and we have the choice to be entertained or to not be entertained. But they put their bodies on the line because that's what they enjoy, or that's how they make a living, or whatever. But regardless, it is their choice. It is not ours. Fans feel way too entitled. So Amani Bates, I wish you the best of luck. And I only say it was a surprise just because of where everyone was reporting you to go. But I wish you the best of luck.
As do I. And speaking of things we're going to agree on, Les, for our next topic, I think you know where this is going, which is one of the holiest overpay Batmans I've ever seen in any trade of all time, which was the Rudy Gobert to the Timberwolves trade. I don't even have the time to list all the players and picks that got moved in that deal. All I know is that Patrick Beverly is in Utah now, and that seems like it's not going to end well. But why? Number one, first question, why? Number two, how? What are the expectations for Minnesota? Why did they do this? What kind of lofty goals do they have with this move? Because Les, I don't think I'm overstating it when I said you and I were just flabbergasted by this
You want to know
move
why
to
they did it, Matt?
well, yes.
Well, sorry, I'm not going to tell you that. But what I am going to do is absolutely rip
No.
apart this move. Because in what way, shape, or form does it make sense that you're going to pay Karl Anthony Towns a big contract and then turn around and then trade pretty much a young core or a decade's worth of players to get another high paid center in a guard dominant league? And here's my thing. Did the Timberwolves forget what era they're playing in? I mean, how is that lineup going to work? I mean, okay, Gobert at the 5. That much we do know. Cat slides down to the 4. Okay, yeah, he can stretch the floor with his on offense with his perimeter shooting and his face-up game. But that dude's going to get cooked on defense. He's not a good defender now. I know the Kentucky homers are going to hop on this podcast and be like, yes, he is. No, he's not. Cat is, if you look at notable centers in the league, Cat is analytically top 3 worst when it comes to defense. And now you want to slide him to the perimeter to play defense? That's not going to work in any way, shape, or form. So that and his tune is almost seems like a complete backwards move because you add someone like Gobert for defense. But then if you're going to move Cat to the 4, you're now like working against yourself because that's only going to make defense even harder. And then, like you said, they trade away Beverly. That gets away from defense. I don't trust D'Angelo Russell on the defensive side of the ball. The only 2 players in that lineup I trust even the slightest on defense is Gobert and Anthony Edwards. And Anthony Edwards is no defensive lockdown. So it makes absolutely no sense. I am a Gobert advocate. I have a couple people that I know in my life that are Gobert haters. I'm not gonna name names right now.
They know
they know who they are, but I'm not a Gobert hater. I'm just a hater of this move because it makes no sense. Gobert needs to go somewhere where they have where 1 through 4 can slide and defend the perimeter or can space the floor. He doesn't need to play next to another high-paid center. It just doesn't make sense. And for as much as they gave up to get him, definitely makes sense. Gobert is a good player, but you traded this man like you were trading for LeBron in his prime. And that's just not realistic at all.
No, it's not. And everything you said is absolutely true. But what really kills me here is the money and the depth that they've cost themselves. Now you have 2, not 1, but 2 $200 million centers on your team. You have nobody to play small forward, really. I mean, you signed Kyle Anderson. He's a good player, but he's not going to make up for too many of the problems you mentioned. And who is sitting on that bench now? Who? Nobody. However, to flip this deal around, I think it's a good one for the Utah Jazz. They got a big contract off the books. They've got a lot of depth now at a lot of positions. And they've got, most importantly, they've got draft capital. And what they can do with that is they can spin it into DeAndre Ayton. They can spin it into any player almost they want. Heck, they have enough resources right now. They could get Kevin Durant just because they have so many resources. And that's a good way to get Donovan Mitchell to stay. So that way you can keep the franchise superstar. He can continue to step up his game to the point we think he can play. But for the Minnesota, this just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they were just playing good. And I hate to say that because I love Anthony Edwards. I love his game. But this team just right now has no depth. It has $400 million in a position that's slowly going away in the league. They have no one at the 3. They do have 4 really good, fun to watch guys, but even then, they don't complement each other well. It just seems like it's a recipe to cause the Jimmy Butler incident 2.0 at some point, but I don't know who's going to do it and when. But no, I do not like this move for the Minnesota Timberwolves at all. I understand they want to have star power. They think they have an up and coming all-star in Anthony Edwards, and if he's really that good and he can make this work, then yes, more power to him. I'd love to see him succeed, but this roster is just very, very oddly constructed. They do not complement each other. The West is still loaded. And when you've got that much money wrapped off at a frankly irrelevant position now, I just don't see how this is the path to sustained success going forward.
As ironically enough, as we'd mentioned how important fit is in the game of basketball, the Timberwolves go somewhere where fit is completely out of the question.
Yep.
So moving on to the next topic.
Yeah, Les, you're gonna have to explain this to me. I have no idea what the hell this means.
What?
Fanta gets ripped by Duke fans.
Oh, I'm getting into it.
They coming
So,
after soft drinks now. Can't you people be happy with anything?
no, they're going for a more healthy drink choice, man. That's what's going on here, sir.
Yeah, sure.
And anyways, I have never seen Duke social media come after someone like they did Field of 68 host John Fanta. We almost looked like Kentucky fans without nasty comments and threatening his family. Oh, my bad. Did I say that out loud? Okay, sorry. Anyways, so for those who missed it, a clip went viral of Field of 68 host John Fanta breaking down why he isn't sold on Duke as a title contender for the 2022 season, which is fine. They're young, under a first-year head coach. I get it. I got questions myself. But it was his reasoning why Duke fans came at his neck. He goes on to say that he doesn't trust Duke's backcourt in close games down the stretch. The part that really struck a nerve with Duke fans is when he said that returning point guard Jeremy Roach is limited. Here's my thing. A, I don't know how good he thinks Jeremy Roach needs to be, but anything close to what we saw in the tournament, I think is good enough. B, how are you going to break down how you're not sold on a backcourt, but then leave out a very important member of that backcourt in Tyrese Proctor, one of the top international prospects that reclassified to this year? C, bringing in Coach Jai Lucas is critical in this take because of his reputation for developing guards. And D, do you mean to tell me that Remy Martin on the national championship winning Jayhawks was much better than what we saw than Jeremy Roach in the tournament? They pretty much did the same thing. To wrap up, it's not that he wasn't sold on Duke that was the issue, but it was his lack of knowledge about the team that made us compelled to feel like he didn't need to make a comment like this. But as always, he's got his opinion, and I just have to encourage Duke fans, keep it classy after that. Y'all came at his neck enough. Just don't cross any lines there, bud.
Yeah, just be civil, even if you disagree. But that's kind of the point of a show like this. Sometimes you have to play the bad guy to get people to listen. And if you got people to listen to a show, I guess it's really popular. I'm not talking trash. I just haven't heard of this one. There are so many sports podcasts in the world, and I can't listen to them all, and I'm sorry. So I'm not trying to downplay this or make this sound like it's an irrelevant podcast.
Question before you continue. Question before you continue. Have you heard of the Hummel and Goodman podcast?
No.
You haven't? With Robbie Hummel and okay. They're part of Field of 68.
Okay.
Field of 68 was founded by former CBS sports writer Rob Douster, if that rings a bell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's Field of 68. They've got a bunch of different podcasts, but pretty much Field of 68 is pretty much the brand that they all join.
Okay. Well then, like I said, this isn't just a downplay, but you got to find a way to get people to listen, and sometimes you got to be contrarian. Yeah. I mean, sometimes on shows where you and I are agreeing on a lot, I'll change my opinion mid-show just because I want to argue. And it's fun that way. So that's what I do. So
we actually have about 10 minutes left, so let's get through these next couple things real quick. So Matt, let's go on to your next topic.
All right. So basically, the Pacers have committed to their rebuild. They've shipped Malcolm Brogdon, a good but not great fit for the Pacers, to Boston, where he's still expected to come off the bench in favor of Marcus Smart as a starter. This is a move that I think helps Boston a lot because that's the one thing I thought they were lacking was a true quote unquote point guard in the NBA Finals. But I don't get why they're still going with Mark. I know Marcus Smart is their guy. He's the Defensive Player of the Year. Sorry, Les. But I don't get why they would put him behind that. But either way, Boston got off pretty easily with this. They basically traded the back end of their bench to Indiana, who's committed to a rebuild. So, Les, what do you think of this move? Is there anything good that's going to come from it?
Mm-mm. I don't think so. I think it just shows that the Pacers are in rebuild mode, and I think they're still struggling to find a direction of where they're headed.
Yeah.
For time constraints, we're going to move on to the my next topic, and that is
This might be the last one because we're going to have thoughts on this. So
yeah. So here's my number 4 topic: USC and UCLA to the Big Ten in 2024. First off, everything I learned about geography is a lie. Do these two teams even fit in the Big Ten? The LA Hollywood image of the Bruins and the Trojans meet up with the cold blue collar Big Ten. They don't fit geographically or identity wise. These conference shakeups are getting ridiculous. How long before conferences combine to form a mega conference, or how much longer do we just get rid of conferences altogether? Texas and Oklahoma going to SEC makes some sense. This makes none. Does this mean that Lincoln Riley is going to ditch the Trojans before 2024? We all know he's ducking the SEC because he won't dominate a conference with Alabama and Georgia. Good luck dominating a conference with Ohio State and Michigan.
Here's the thing, Les. You know what? I love it. Bring it on. Bring it on. Because, Les, this is all about college football. This is all about money. And that's perfectly fine. If we take a look at the numbers, Northwestern and Vanderbilt, the two bottom dwellers of football in the Big Ten, well, other than Indiana, in the Big Ten and SEC respectively, made $80 million last year just by being in the conference and losing to Alabama 45-7. USC, one of the premier programs in their conference, made $30 million. This is all about the money, and it's not over, Les. Once Notre Dame decides they actually want to join the Big Ten, which they should, the Big Ten's going to go out and they're going to add the other top-tier programs in the Pac-12. And they're going to become a mega conference. When that happens, the SEC is going to take away Florida State, Miami, Clemson. They're going to join the SEC. And you know what we're going to have eventually are 3 conferences. You're going to have the Big Ten, the SEC, and everybody else who wasn't a top-tier program at the time that everyone expanded. And it's going to be exactly like the NFL, but college.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have basically Saturday college football where you're going to have an SEC West matchup between Texas and Alabama in the 1 o'clock slot. And then at 4:15, you're going to tune in to the Big Ten West matchup between Oregon and Kansas or something. Even though it's going to be a blowout, you're going to watch anyway. And you know what? That's perfectly fine. The NFL model has been extremely successful. It's going to happen. And I do feel bad for all those Power 5 schools, but Wednesday night action will still be a thing. Those things aren't going anywhere. It's just that Saturday is going to be mega conference football day, the same way Sunday is NFL football Sunday. And I'm perfectly fine with that because what that means is we're going to have better games, better product, and these guys are going to be even more prepared for the NFL than they were before. And hopefully that will cause enough revenue to trickle down and help other sports like Indiana baseball, Indiana soccer, Indiana softball get more money because they're also good, even if the football team is losing 56-0 to Lincoln Riley in Los Angeles. And that's why I think it's a good thing. That's where we're headed.
All right. So are we going with the last topic? We got about 5 minutes left. Are we going with which last topic are we going with?
Let's go with this. Let's predict something here. Let's have some fun.
All right.
Predict. Where is Kevin Durant gonna go? You tell me. Where's he gonna go? You do your pick. I'll do mine.
I am going to go. I think he's going to go to Portland. Personally, I think there's too much taboo around the Instagram post, or I don't even know if that was the right word to use, but I think there's too much juju going around the Instagram post of Dame and Kevin Durant teaming up together. But here's my thing. I'm hearing all too well that by several tweets on NBA Twitter that KD to Miami is all but a done deal. Now, look, I'm not one to believe anything until it actually happens. However, I hope KD realizes with this move, he will be under the most pressure he's faced in his career. You look at the absolute disaster that was in Brooklyn and how a super team was assembled, only to be torn apart without winning a damn thing. Now you go to a team who has been as close to knocking on the door without getting let in as you can get. A team that has been just missing a second consistent scorer next to Jimmy Butler, and you team up with the core you wanted to team up with. Anything short of a championship will be a tragedy. To top it off, you're joining the same franchise that LeBron took his talents to back in 2011. So the comparisons will be there, and his career will be judged next to LeBron's now more than ever. Given the Nets blow up and the Warriors winning another championship without him, Kevin Durant needs to redeem his legacy or never reach the heights of the player we thought he was.
You know what, Les? That's a really good point. But I'm going to say, if I had to pick right now, I've got two that I would really love to see him go to. My first would be the Phoenix Suns, just because I would love to see how he would play with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. I just want to see how fun that team just sounds like it would be a ton of fun. And even though it's a big three like we talked about, I just want to see how that would work out. I just think it would be nice and interesting to see the legacy of Chris Paul if he gets a ring on the back of Kevin Durant, just to see what the NBA heads would say. I think they would pretty much explode and still call him CP0, just because NBA Twitter is a very petty and interesting place.
Yes, it
The
is.
other team I would like to see just to be involved in this would be the Toronto Raptors, just because they've literally freaking done this once before. They went out and they got a disgruntled small forward from a big market, or from a team that had recently, well, they didn't recently win a championship, did the Nets, but they went out and they got a disgruntled small forward from a team who wore all black with a white silver trim. And what happened to them that very next year? They won the NBA championship. So I would like to see that, as long as they don't give up too much. I would like to see Kevin Durant do that thing that Kawhi Leonard did in Toronto and just have Toronto just watch history repeat itself over and over again as we watch Kevin Durant replace Kawhi Leonard in the hearts of Toronto Raptors fans, and of course our beloved Drake. So I would think that would be interesting, just to watch Kevin Durant go and kind of do the Kawhi Leonard thing. Just to be honest with you, and as we wrap up here, Les, I would just also like to point out a big congratulations to the Birmingham Stallions, champions of the USFL. In a game I actually watched and was fairly entertained by, Scooby Wright, former Arizona linebacker, had the game-sealing pick six, and Bo Scarborough, former Alabama running back, I forgot all about him, made an appearance.
But man just knows how to win.
Yep. I do love the city of Birmingham. I'm glad they have a championship, and if I was in charge of the NFL, why the hell not? I'd put a team there. They've proven that they love that team. But anyway, congratulations to the Birmingham Stallions. Hopefully, we'll get more USFL seasons going forward, in spite of the fact they're not affiliated with ESPN.
I'm going to end this note on one thing, and I think it's very interesting that Matt brings up the potential of Kevin Durant joining the Raptors and the Drake reference, because I believe in the music video to Laugh Now, Cry Later, Drake is indeed playing one-on-one with Kevin Durant in the music video. So cue speculation. But that's all the time we have for today. Until next time, Matt and I are out. Be sure to like and subscribe to Less is More Sports YouTube and Spotify channel, and tell us what you liked and you didn't like in the comment section below. Until next time, we're out.
Be careful with those fireworks.